They say some moments mark you forever. For me, it was the evening I stood on a rooftop overlooking the city skyline, a velvet box in my shaking hand, my heart thudding with hope. 8 years we'd been together. Shared laughter, struggle, silence, and love. I was convinced I knew her better than I knew myself. That night, I was sure I was about to take the most meaningful step of my life. I had planned it meticulously. I booked the rooftop of a cozy, ivy-draped bistro in the old part of town, the place where we had our first anniversary dinner. There were fairy lights strung across the railing, soft jazz playing in the background, a chilled bottle of her favorite wine waiting at the table. She looked beautiful, hair curled just enough to look effortless, eyes glowing in the candlelight. That dress I always loved, the dark green one that hugged her waist just right. I could barely eat. My nerves were a storm, but I kept smiling, sipping wine, nodding as she talked about her day. When dessert arrived, I stood up. She looked confused. I took her hand, dropped to one knee. She gasped. I said her name, told her how much she meant to me, how I couldn't imagine a future without her, how she'd shape me, steady me, become the best part of me. Then I opened the box. The ring wasn't flashy. It wasn't supposed to be. It was simple, elegant, just like her. She covered her mouth with both hands. Her eyes filled with tears. And then she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." I stood, slipped the ring on her finger. We kissed, and the city lights blurred in my vision as I held her. I had never felt so sure of anything. Later that night, I messaged my closest friends, shared photos, sent a video my waiter had discreetly captured of the proposal. Everyone responded with congratulations, cheers, emojis. Everyone except one, my childhood friend, Lena. The next day, she called. Her voice shook. "I need to see you," she said. "Please. Today. Alone." I met her at the park near our old school, a quiet bench shaded by a massive oak tree. I could tell something was wrong the moment I saw her. Her eyes were red. She clutched her hands together, like she was holding in a secret that might burn through her palms. "You're engaged," she said. Not a question. "Yeah." I smiled. "I proposed last night." She said yes. Lena nodded slowly, then looked away. "You're going to hate me," she said. "What? Why?" She took a breath. "I saw her 2 weeks ago with someone else." My smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "I saw her at that little cafe by the bridge. She was with a guy. I didn't think much of it at first, but they looked close. I followed them, just in case. They left together, walked 2 blocks to a hotel. They went in, and they didn't come out for hours. Everything stopped. The sound of birds, of kids playing in the distance, the rustle of wind, all of it muted. Why didn't you tell me?" My voice was flat, cold. I was going to, I swear, but I had to leave for that conference in Prague the next morning. I didn't want to do this over the phone. I thought, maybe I was wrong. But then I saw your post, and I couldn't keep it in anymore. I stood up, pacing, my hands trembling. I trusted her. I whispered. 8 years. I never even looked at her phone, never questioned her. Lena looked like she wanted to hug me, but I wasn't ready. "I need to know the truth," I said. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay next to her in bed, her breathing steady, calm. My heart raced. Every time she stirred, I wondered if she could feel what was coming. The next evening, as we sat in the car after dinner, I reached over and grabbed her phone. Swift, wordless. I stepped out of the car. She screamed, cried, pleaded, but I didn't stop. And the truth hit harder than I'd feared. The night I took her phone, I didn't feel like myself. It was as if something inside me had already broken loose and taken over, a version of me I never knew existed. I stood outside the car with her phone clutched in my hand, my back turned to her. I could hear her voice rising, trembling, pleading through tears. But I couldn't answer. Not yet. The screen was still lit. Notifications had popped up like warnings I had ignored for too long. A message preview from Alexei. "Wish we had more time last night. Still thinking about you. Her voice cracked behind me. Please give me my phone. Just talk to me. It's not what you think. Not what I think. I opened the chat. The words hit like fists. You smell like heaven yesterday. Can't stop thinking about your skin. Same time next week? There were photos. Nothing graphic, but intimate. Coffee cups with their fingers brushing. A mirror selfie in what looked like a hotel room. And then the timestamps. The day, I thought she was at work late. The weekend, she said she was at her sister's. I turned around, met her eyes through the windshield. She looked like a stranger, her makeup smeared from tears, hands pressed against her chest as if trying to hold herself together. I walked back to the driver's side and got in without a word. We sat in silence. I handed her the phone. Her hand shook as she took it, glancing down like she might be able to rewrite the evidence. I can explain, she whispered. No, I said flat. You will explain. But not now. Not while I'm this close to hating you. She broke then. Fully. A sob ripped out of her as she curled into herself, her ringed hand covering her mouth. We didn't speak the rest of the drive home. That night, I stayed on the couch. I couldn't be near her. I stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying every kiss. Every late night she said she was working. Every time she reached for my hand while her eyes wandered elsewhere. Morning came too quickly. The sun didn't bring clarity, only more questions. She sat across from me in the kitchen, clutching a mug she didn't drink from. Her voice was hoarse. I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't respond. We were having problems. You know we were. You were distant, always working. I laughed bitterly. So you cheated because I had a job? No, it wasn't just that. I felt invisible, like we weren't us anymore. And you didn't think to tell me? You thought sleeping with someone else was easier than one honest conversation. Her eyes welled up again. I didn't plan it. It started with coffee, talking. I didn't mean to fall for him. That word, fall, as if it was an accident, like tripping over a rug. I stood up. I needed space, clarity, air. I went to Lena's. She opened the door, saw my face, and didn't ask a single question. She let me crash on her couch. She made tea. She sat with me in silence until I spoke. It was true, everything you said. She nodded slowly. I hoped it wasn't. I proposed to her, Lena. I gave her everything. And she threw it away. For the next few days, I drifted. I stayed away from our apartment. I ignored her calls. My friends texted worried, but I said nothing. What could I say? That the woman I planned to marry had been building another life behind my back? Eventually, I returned home to gather some things. She was waiting. I want to fix this, she said. Her voice was raw. Why? Because you got caught. No, because I love you. I looked at her, really looked. The woman I once adored. Now just a stranger in familiar skin. I don't know if I believe that anymore. I said. She tried to reach for my hand. I stepped back. I need time, I said. To decide what? She asked. If I can forgive you. If I want to. Because betrayal doesn't just break love. It breaks the future you thought you were building. And I wasn't sure if ours could be rebuilt. Time didn't move forward after that. It stretched, slowed, crawled. I returned to Lena's place with an overnight bag that turned into a week-long stay. Every morning I stared at my phone, watching the notifications pile up. Missed calls from her. Voicemails I didn't listen to. Messages that started with please and ended with I love you. I didn't delete them. Not yet. I needed the reminders. I needed the evidence. Lena kept me grounded. She was a calm voice in my chaos. The anchor I hadn't realized I still had. We'd known each other since we were kids. She'd been there through scraped knees and graduation speeches, through breakups and heartbreaks. And now, she was the one person whose presence didn't feel like an intrusion. You don't have to decide anything now, she said one night as we sat on our couch watching some old thriller neither of us cared about. Just breathe. Just exist. I don't know who I am anymore. I admitted. You're still you, she said gently. She's the one who lied. You're still the man who planned a rooftop proposal. because you believed in love. But the problem was, I didn't know if I believed in it anymore. I returned to our apartment the next weekend. She wasn't home. Her things were still there, though, neatly arranged, untouched, as if she hadn't moved at all, as if the world hadn't shifted. On the dining table, I found a letter, handwritten, pages folded neatly inside a cream envelope. "Read when you're ready," she'd written on the front. I wasn't ready. I put it in my bag. I moved through the apartment like a ghost. Every room held memories, some good, some unbearable. The hallway where she used to meet me with a kiss. The kitchen where we laughed over burned toast. The couch where we fell asleep watching reruns. And our bed, I couldn't even look at it. I took some clothes, a few essentials. I didn't want more than I could carry. Not yet. Before I left, I stopped by her nightstand. Her phone charger was there, her favorite earrings, and a Polaroid tucked behind the lamp. A photo of us, laughing on a beach trip 2 summers ago. She had written "forever" on the bottom in black marker. What a stupid word. That night, I opened the letter. She poured everything into it. Apologies, explanations, regrets. She said she never meant for it to happen, that it wasn't about love or even lust. It was about escape, about something broken inside her that she hadn't faced. "You gave me everything," she wrote, "and I didn't know how to carry it." She talked about therapy, about trying to understand why she sabotaged the one good thing in her life. She didn't ask me to come back. She didn't beg. She just said she'd wait, that she'd be there if I ever wanted to talk. But how do you talk to someone who became a stranger in a heartbeat? I started going for long walks, through parks, down streets I hadn't visited in years. I needed the movement, the feeling of putting one foot in front of the other. Sometimes I ended up near her office, sometimes near the hotel. Once I saw Alexei, the other man. He came out of a coffee shop, laughing with a friend. He looked normal, not like the villain I'd built in my head. Just a man, probably unaware of the war he'd stepped into. For a split second, I wanted to confront him, demand answers. But I didn't, because no matter what he said, it wouldn't change what she'd done. Instead, I walked the other way. Weeks passed. Lena encouraged me to see a counselor. I resisted at first, then gave in. The therapist listened without judgment, helped me process the betrayal, the loss, the identity crisis. "You're grieving," she said. "Not just her, but the future you believed in." That sentence stayed with me. One evening, I found myself outside the apartment again. I didn't have a plan. I just stood there, looking up at the balcony where we used to have coffee on weekends. And then she stepped outside. Our eyes met. She didn't smile. Neither did I. She didn't call out. She just stood there. So, did I. Then I turned and walked away. Because some things don't need closure. Some wounds need distance. And sometimes, healing begins with silence. I didn't plan to see her again. I told myself I was done. That nothing she could say would matter anymore. But healing is never linear. It's not a switch you flip. It's a tide you learn to wade through, sometimes knee-deep in regret. It started with dreams. At first, blurry and scattered. Then more vivid. Dreams where we were still together. Laughing. Traveling. Planning our wedding. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, heart racing. Reality flooding back like ice water. One morning, Lena caught me staring into my coffee, lost in one of those post-dream hazes. "You need closure," she said. "You keep walking around with ghosts in your chest." I don't even know what closure looks like anymore. Maybe it's not something she can give you, Lena said. Maybe it's something you find on your own. But that same day, my phone buzzed with a message I didn't expect. I've moved out, left the key under the plant by the door. I'm staying with my sister for now. I won't contact you again unless you want me to. I'm sorry. It hit differently. Final. Quiet. Heavy. I went back to the apartment that night. It felt abandoned. Empty in a way that silence alone couldn't explain. Her scent was gone. Her photos removed. But her absence still echoed in every corner. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, hands braced against the counter. I thought I would cry. But I didn't. I just breathed. On the fridge was a single magnet, the one we bought at a gas station on a road trip when we got lost and ended up discovering a hidden waterfall. I left it there. That night, I started writing. Not to her, not to anyone, to myself. I wrote about how it felt to lose trust, how betrayal wasn't just a wound but a redefinition. I wrote about the numbness, the confusion, the days I wanted to scream but couldn't find the words. The writing became a habit, a safe place, a mirror. A week later, I ran into her sister at the grocery store. She looked surprised, then sad. "She's not doing great," she said. "She's been quiet, withdrawn. I think she's finally realizing what she lost." I nodded, but I didn't ask for details, because I was finally learning not to let her pain dictate mine. Still, I found myself wondering, had she changed? Had she meant any of her apology? Did she still think about me the way I still, sometimes, thought about her? Lena noticed. "You're allowed to miss her," she said. "Missing someone doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Just don't let it drag you backward." I didn't respond. I wasn't sure I could promise that. Then came the email. Short, polite, one paragraph. "I know you asked for space, but if you ever want to meet and talk, even just once, I'll be here. Not to fix anything, just to understand." I reread it a dozen times. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part, the same part that still wore the scar of what we had, wanted to say yes. I wrote back, "One conversation. That's all. Tomorrow at noon. The park bench by the old church." I didn't tell Lena. I didn't want advice. I just needed to see what was left. The bench by the old church hadn't changed. Same wormwood, same uneven patch of grass nearby. I arrived early. Too early. My heart pounded like it used before big exams or job interviews. That distinct blend of anxiety and unresolved expectation. I sat, back straight, arms folded, watching the street, watching for her. The city moved around me, joggers, parents with strollers, teens with headphones. I envied their normalcy. She arrived 10 minutes late. She wore a navy coat and a scarf I bought her last winter. Her steps were hesitant, careful. When she saw me, she paused. I didn't wave, just nodded. That was all I had to offer. She sat beside me, leaving a gap between us, a respectful distance. "Hi," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hi." For a moment, neither of us spoke. It was like we were waiting for the air itself to clear a path through the tension. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said. I wasn't sure either. I didn't want to make things worse. "You already did," I said quietly. She flinched, and I hated that part of me that still felt bad for making her hurt. She looked down at her hands. "I'm not here to justify anything. There's no excuse for what I did. But I wanted you to hear it from me. Everything. If you'll let me." I nodded, slowly. So she told me about the days she felt like she was losing herself, about the loneliness she didn't talk about the mistakes that began with small lies and turned into an avalanche. She spoke clearly without drama. No tears, no begging. "I betrayed you," she said. "I know I did, and I regret it every day. But I also know that regret is a redemption. I'm not asking for you back. I just needed you to know I never stopped loving you. I just stopped loving myself." That line broke something in me, because I remember the girl I fell in love with, the woman who built dreams with me, who held my hand when I was weak, who believed in me more than I believed in myself. And I hated that she had destroyed what we had, but I also hated how much I still cared. We sat in silence for a long time, watching pigeons fight over breadcrumbs, watching people pass by, all unaware of the gravity between us. "I can't go back," I said finally, "even if I wanted to. I'm not the same person anymore." She nodded. "Neither am I. But I hope you find peace. And I hope you keep working on yourself. Not for me, for you." She smiled. Soft, sad. "Thank you." We stood. I didn't offer a hug. She didn't ask. But as we turned to walk in opposite directions, I realized something. This was closure. Not a perfect ending, not a reunion, but a clean cut, the final page in a chapter that had been bleeding into too many parts of me. That night, I told Lena everything. She listened without interruption, then poured us both wine. "I'm proud of you," she said. "For what?" "For showing up, for hearing her out, and for knowing where to draw the line." We sat on her balcony, watching the city lights blink in rhythm with our silence. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel the weight of what was lost. I felt the shape of what was coming. It had been nearly a month since our final conversation on the church bench, a conversation that left no questions unanswered, no lingering what-ifs in its wake. And yet, I still found myself waking some mornings with a heavy breath, and that ghost of her perfume tickling the edge of memory. Healing, I was learning, wasn't a straight line. It was a series of loops like knots in a thread, tightening and loosening unpredictably. Lena noticed it before I did. "You're lighter," she said one evening as we washed dishes. Not completely there, but something shifted. And she was right. It wasn't just that I'd found closure. It was that I'd finally made space for something else to grow. I started jogging again. The early morning runs became my ritual, a rhythm to work the residue out of my system. Each footfall was a mantra. Let go, let go, let go. I passed places we used to frequent and didn't flinch. I no longer checked her socials or reread her letter. I boxed those memories, literally and emotionally, and stored them in a closet I didn't open anymore. Work improved, too. For a while, my colleagues tiptoed around me, unsure whether I was stable enough to handle even routine meetings. But I came back focused, grounded. My manager noticed. "Glad to have you back," she said. And for the first time, I didn't feel like an imposter in my own skin. But the most surprising change came in the quiet moments. When I'd sit on Lena's balcony with tea and let my thoughts drift, they didn't always land on her. Sometimes they wandered toward dreams I'd shelved, travel, writing, even returning to school. I had spent so long building my future around someone else that I'd forgotten I could build one alone. It was during one of these quiet evenings that Lena spoke up. "I'm thinking about leaving the city," she said. "Maybe a fresh start. Something coastal. I don't know." I looked at her, surprised. "You've lived here your whole life." "Exactly," she smiled. "Maybe it's time I found out who I am without this place." Her words struck a chord. That night, I opened a blank document on my laptop. At first, I just typed sentences, disjointed ideas, fragments of moments that still ached. But soon it turned into a story. Fiction, technically, but it pulsed with truth. I wrote every night after that. Sometimes only a paragraph, sometimes pages. The process didn't just heal, it transformed. Writing became the bridge between who I was and who I was becoming. Then came an email, not from her, from Alexei. Subject line, "I owe you nothing, but here I am." I stared at it for 10 minutes before opening it. "I know you don't want to hear from me. I wouldn't either. But I want you to know that she told me the truth eventually. She ended it with me before you two even broke up. I didn't know she was engaged. I found out after. I felt sick. I stopped all contact after that. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm not proud of it, and I'm sorry." I didn't reply. What was there to say? The chapter was already closed. But reading it, the admission, the regret, brought a strange calm. 2 days later, I moved out of Lena's place. We hugged for a long time, not needing to say much. I found a small studio on the other side of town. Just enough space for a bed, a desk, and an open window with late afternoon sun. The first night in the new apartment, I sat on the floor with a glass of wine, music playing from my phone. I wasn't sad. I wasn't bitter. I was still here. And finally I was mine. The days in the new apartment began to fall into a rhythm. Quiet mornings with black coffee, sunlight pouring to bare windows, and long, unhurried walks through unfamiliar streets. I wasn't trying to escape my past anymore. I was simply learning how to live without its weight pressing on my chest. At first, the silence felt foreign. Not lonely, but vast, like a new language I had to relearn. I filled it slowly. Jazz playing softly in the mornings, the occasional audiobook, the creak of old wood under my bare feet. I bought a second-hand bookshelf and filled it with novels, journals, photo albums I had ignored for years. Each object felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I started keeping a small whiteboard on my fridge, not for grocery lists, but for quotes that moved me. One day it read, "You do not have to be whole to begin again. You only have to begin." That stuck with me. Weekend became sacred. I'd explore the city like a tourist, find new cafes, sit in parks with my notebook. One Saturday afternoon, I ran into Mia, a mutual friend I hadn't seen since before the proposal. She worked at a gallery now, had chopped her hair short, and seemed lighter. We hugged, caught up. She invited me to a small local exhibit she was curating. I hesitated, but said yes. That night, I stood in a softly lit room of abstract art, surrounded by unfamiliar faces and a low hum of thoughtful murmurs. I didn't feel out of place. Not exactly. But I felt suspended, like I was watching a version of myself I used to be from a safe distance. And then I met her, Eliza. She was standing in front of a large canvas splashed with violent reds and calming blues, and said something about how chaos can be beautiful when framed right. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. We started talking about the painting, yes, but also about travel, childhood books, her obsession with road maps, my terrible cooking. There was no tension, no pressure. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't anything yet. Just a conversation. Natural, effortless. We didn't exchange numbers. Just a smile at the end. A nod. The kind that says, "I see you." The next morning, I wrote about her. Not as a love interest. As a moment. As a reminder that sparks still happen in unexpected places. Lena came by that week. She brought muffins and asked about the gallery. "Her name's Eliza," I said. She smirked. "Do I need to sit down for this?" "It's nothing. Yet." But it felt good to talk. That's all. Lena squeezed my shoulder. "It's okay to start living again, you know. You deserve that." Later that day, I finished a story I've been writing for weeks. A fictional retelling of my heartbreak through the lens of a traveler lost in the woods. I submitted it to a small online magazine. 2 weeks passed. Then came the acceptance email. "We loved your voice, your vulnerability. We'd be honored to publish this in our next issue." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I smiled. My pain had turned into something more than just a memory. It had become a story, a message, a hand reaching out to someone else who might be lost. A few days later, Eliza messaged me. Mia had given her my name after reading the piece. "I read your story," she wrote. "It was raw, brave. I'd love to hear more over coffee, if you're open to that." My heart didn't jump. It settled. "Yeah," I typed back. "I'd like that." We met at a quiet cafe by the water, talked for hours, about writing, about grief, about learning to trust the world again. And as the sky darkened and city lights shimmered on the water's surface, I realized I wasn't searching anymore. I wasn't mourning. I was beginning. The morning after my coffee with Eliza broke with a quiet serenity, the city air carrying the faint hum of traffic and the crisp scent of dew on the fire escape outside my new apartment's open window. The narrator, sat at my small desk, the wood warm under my hands. The laptop glowed with the acceptance email from the online magazine, a testament to my raw words finding a home. The second-hand bookshelf loomed nearby, its shelves a patchwork of novels and journals, and I felt a stir, not pain but a possibility, as I sipped black coffee, the bitter taste of grounding ritual. Lena's words echoed, "You're lighter," and I wondered if this was the dawn she'd seen, the city lights outside a canvas for a future I was painting. That afternoon, I walked the streets, the pavement cool under my sneakers, the chatter of passers-by a gentle hum as I passed the cafe where Eliza and I had talked. The memory of her laugh lingered, the water's shimmer a backdrop, and I stopped, the air thick with the scent of roasted beans, debating a return. Instead, I found a park, the grass damp underfoot, and sat on a bench, the journal in my lap a companion as I wrote, about her, about the story, about the man I was becoming. The sun dipped, casting long shadows, and I felt a pull, not toward her, but toward myself. The fire escapes creak a reminder of my new space, step by step, toward a life unburdened. The next day, I returned to the gallery, the soft hum of voices and the scent of fresh paint filling the air as Mia greeted me, her short hair a bold frame for her smile. We talked, her curating passion a spark, and she showed me new pieces, the wooden floor creaking under us. Eliza wasn't there, but her absence felt like a question. The city lights outside the window a promise. I sketched in my notebook, the pen scratch a release, and Mia suggested a writing workshop, her enthusiasm infectious. Back home, the apartment glowed with late afternoon sun, the bookshelf a silent witness, as I planned, the fire escape a perch for reflection, the air a breath of growth. That evening, I met Lena on her balcony, the city sprawling below, the scent of her tea blending with the urban breeze. She asked about Eliza, her tone gentle, and I shared the coffee, the laughter, the ease. Not a romance, but a spark. She smiled. You're opening up. And we watched the skyline, the journal filling with dreams, writing travel, a life defined by me. The fire escape creaked as I left the apartment haven, and I wrote late into the night. The laptop's glow a beacon, the city a mirror to my healing. Step by step, toward a dawn where I stood tall. The next morning, the apartment hummed with quiet energy, the sun pouring through the window, the bookshelf a gallery of my past and present. I jogged, the rhythm a mantra. Let go, passing the hotel without a flinch, the air crisp with possibility. Back home, I opened the workshop invite, the pen tracing plans, the fire escape a frame for my view. The magazine emailed again, publication next week, and I exhaled, the journal a record of my rise, the city a witness to my echoes, step by step, toward a new dawn I was crafting. The morning after planning the workshop dawned with soft glow, the city air carrying the faint scent of rain-washed streets and the distant hum of early traffic to my apartment's open window. The narrator, sat at my desk, the wood warm but comforting under my hands, the laptop open to a new story draft, its words a fragile thread weaving my pain into art. The bookshelf stood tall, its novels a silent audience, and I sipped coffee, the bitter warmth a ritual as I read the magazine's feedback. Your voice resonates, a spark igniting within. Lena's balcony words lingered. You're opening up, and I felt a pull toward creation. The fire escapes creak a reminder of my new space, step by step, toward a life stitched with purpose. That afternoon, I attended the writing workshop, the room alive with the murmur of eager voices and the scent of fresh paper, the wooden chairs creaking as we settled. The instructor, a gray-haired woman with kind eyes, guided us through prompts, and I wrote about the rooftop, the betrayal, the bench, a catharsis spilling onto the page. A woman beside me, Sarah, shared a poem about loss, her voice trembling, and we connected, the city lights outside the window a backdrop to our shared vulnerability. Back home, the apartment glowed with late sun, the desk a sanctuary as I revised, the fire escape frame in my view, the air a breath of growth, my threads of creation tightening. The next day, I met Eliza again, the cafe by the water buzzing with the aroma of roasted beans and the soft clink of cups, the wooden table warm under my hands. We talked about her maps, my stories, the chaos of healing, her laugh a melody, the water's shimmer a mirror to my calm. She suggested collaboration, her eyes bright, and I agreed, the fire escape a mental image of my evolving space. At home, I sketched a story outline, the pen scratch a release, the bookshelf a witness to my rise, the city a canvas for our ideas, step by step, toward a partnership untainted by past shadows. That evening, I visited Lena, her balcony overlooking the skyline, the scent of her tea blending with the urban breeze. As we sat, the journal open on my lap. She read my draft, her nod a quiet approval, and we discussed the workshop, her encouragement a foundation. The fire escape creaked as I left the apartment a haven, and I wrote late, the laptop's glow a beacon, the city light a reflection of my threads, writing, friendship, a life rewoven. The next morning, I jogged, the rhythm a mantra, let go, passing old haunts without pain, the air crisp with possibility, step by step, toward creation that defined me. The morning after the gathering with Lena and Sarah Dawn were radiant calm. The city air alive with the sweet scent of early summer blooms drifting through my apartment's open window, the sunlight casting golden streaks across the wooden floor. The narrator, stood by the bookshelf, the wood warm under my fingers as I traced the magazine with my story. Its pages a tangible milestone, the desk glowing with the promise of new drafts. The fire escape framed my view, its creak a familiar heartbeat, and I sipped coffee, the bitter warmth of ritual as I felt profound peace, the journal open on the table, its pages a chronicle of my rise. The city hummed below, a witness to my horizon, step by step, toward a self I was fully claiming. That afternoon, I prepared for the reading event, the apartment buzzing with life as I rehearsed, the scent of ink and paper mingling with the urban breeze. Sarah arrived, her poems in hand, her smile a spark, and we practiced, the wooden floor creaking under our pacing, the bookshelf a silent audience. Eliza joined us, her maps a visual echo, and we collaborated, the desk a canvas for our words, her laughter a bridge. The venue glowed with soft lights, the air thick with the murmur of guests and the tang of coffee, and I read, my voice steady, the city lights outside a backdrop to my strength, the fire escape a memory of my journey, step by step, toward a horizon shared. The next day, the event's success lingered, the apartment warm with the scent of celebratory tea as Lena visited, her presence a foundation. We talked about the reading, her coastal plans, my writing, her gnawed a quiet pride, and I felt a community deepen, the bookshelf a gallery of our bonds. I sketched a new story, the pen scratch a release, the fire escape framing my view, the city a mirror to my growth. Later, I met Eliza by the water, the air crisp with the scent of the river, her maps a guide as we planned a travel piece, her smile a promise, the horizon a canvas for our dreams, step by step, toward a future untainted. That evening, I reflected on the balcony, the city sprawling below, the scent of rain-washed streets blending with the breeze as I wrote, the journal a record of my healing, the park bench, the letter, the hotel, all faded, the fire escape a perch for my peace, the desk a sanctuary of creation. I thought of her, not with pain, but with acceptance, her absence of space I'd fill with art and connection. The next morning, I jogged, the rhythm a mantra, let go, passing old haunts with a clear heart, the air alive with possibility. The magazine called More Submissions Wanted, and I smiled, the bookshelf a witness, the city a horizon self, step by step, toward a life where I thrived, whole and free.